Hey guys, it's Krista Watson here from Krista Quilts, and in this video I'm excited to show you how to use decorative stitches once again, this time with a fun modern design called shattered lines. If you remember all the way back in episode 7, I showed you how to do shattered lines with straight and wavy lines, but today I'm going to show you how to do them with decorative stitches instead. All of these designs can be found in my book, 99 Machine Quilting Designs. So we're going to make a little bit of a quilting plan, sketch it out, and practice it on a practice sample. So grab your practice sample and follow along with me. Decorative Stitch Shattered Lines is design number 30 from the book. To stitch out my decorative stitch shattered lines, I'm going to begin with some wiggly lines that represent the decorative stitch that I'm going to do. Now I can do any decorative stitch that I want. This is just kind of a placeholder. After I have stitched out some anchor lines, I'm going to fill it in randomly. So this is basically the exact same method that I showed you in episode 7, except I'm using decorative stitches instead of straight or wavy ones. Just remember, any walking foot design that you try can be quilted 3 ways, with straight lines, wavy lines, or decorative stitches. The hardest part about this design is knowing when to stop, and it's going to look different every time I stitch it. For this design, I'm choosing stitch number 9 on my machine. Here's the little default of what it looks like, but I've increased the stitch length to 2.0 and I have set the width at 4.0. Now I'm back to walking foot quilting with this design, and I'm using my dual feed, which acts like a built-in walking foot. The gloves I'm wearing give me a better grip on the quilt so that I can move my practice sample and my quilt smoothly underneath the machine. This design is the exact same technique as a previous video I showed you called regular shattered lines way back in episode 7. So make sure you go back and take a look at that one and you can see how it's similar. Just remember, you can stitch any walking foot quilting design 3 different ways, with straight lines, with wavy lines, or with the decorative stitches like I'm showing you here. Each time I'm stitching a line all the way across my sample or quilt from edge to edge. That way I can start stitching in the batting to secure the threads. Then I can stitch off the edge on the other side and cut out the thread. Now I'm going to try to stitch my quilting to do the fewest starts and stops possible with the longest lines of stitching that I can. This allows me to save thread and it actually goes a lot quicker. So I'll begin with some anchor stitched lines to secure the quilt so it's not going to shift on me while I stitch. For this design, I'll either look for a few key places on my quilt where I can stitch in the ditch to hold it together, or I'll just stitch my own set of anchor lines or securing lines like you see here where nothing is really marked. Now these anchor lines can be any direction or any angle. For my sample, I'm quilting lines across the quilt and then on the diagonals to form more of a radial star design. Once the quilt is anchored and secure, then you can stitch additional lines randomly across the quilt. And again, they can really be in any direction. In this close-up, you can see individual stitch patterns I've chosen, but this design looks great with any decorative stitch. And although I'm just doing one design for the whole area, but if you wanted to change it up and use a lot of different decorative stitches, that could really be a way to personalize your quilt. And you know what? That's half the fun of practicing, trying out different designs to see what you like and to see what feels most comfortable. So I recommend looking for a light, less thready stitch design rather than a more dense embroidery type stitch. So just keep stitching until you've reached the desired density of your quilting. In fact, the hardest part about this design is knowing when to stop. Every time I stitch out this design on a practice sample, it ends up looking different. That's the fun of experimentation and play. This quilt behind me is called Little Man's Fancy, and it is a nod to the traditional quilt block called Gentleman's Fancy. But in this modern version, I've taken a block and supersized it, then quilted a really cool design on top of it. The pattern and quilting plan can be found in my book, Machine Quilting with Style, the first book I ever wrote and the first time I came up with this idea of shattered lines. In the close-up, you can kind of see how I quilted straight lines. I haven't yet quilted the decorative stitches with this plan, but it's next on my bucket list. So be sure to check out the description box for a link to get this book, plus my other patterns and videos, and you can check out the playlist to this entire series. So keep on practicing, and remember, you're going to get better with every quilt that you make. I'll see you in the next one.